Tonight, I will tell you a gentle story from long ago, from the pages of a very old book called the Bible. It is a story about people named Hagar and Ishmael. Their story is simple and quiet, with moments of worry and kindness. It reminds us of how lives can change softly, like the gentle wind. A long time ago, there was a family living in a warm, sunlit land. The family was led by a man named Abraham. Abraham had a wife named Sarah. They were very special people who loved each other. But as time passed, they did not have any children, and this made Sarah feel very sad. She wished more than anything to have a child to love and care for. Now, in those days, it was common for families to find different ways to have children. Sarah had a servant named Hagar. Hagar came from far away, and she had her own hopes and dreams. Sarah thought carefully and told Abraham about a plan. She said that maybe Abraham could be a father to a child through Hagar. This was a gentle and quiet idea, meant to bring joy. So Abraham and Hagar came together, and Hagar became with child. After some time, Hagar realized she was going to have a baby. This was a big moment for her. She felt hope and a little bit of fear too. Soon enough, it was clear that Hagar was going to have a son, and this child would be named Ishmael. But things did not stay simple for long. When Sarah saw that Hagar was with child, her feelings became complicated. The story does not tell exactly how Sarah felt, only that things became a little difficult at home. Hagar felt unsure and uneasy. Sometimes when people's hearts are heavy, they worry and feel far away from each other. One day Hagar went away quietly by herself. She walked into the wilderness, a quiet and wide place with soft sand and gentle breezes. There she sat down and thought about everything that had happened. Maybe she felt alone. Near her, a peaceful voice spoke softly. It was an angel, a kind messenger from God, who said gently, "Hagar, do not be afraid. You are not alone." The angel told her, "Look closely. You will have a son, and you will name him Ishmael. His name means God hears. He will grow strong and live freely, like a wild donkey, but he will always be close enough to hear and be heard." This message was like a quiet song in Hagar's heart. She felt comforted, and she knew with a soft certainty that her son would live a special life. Hagar returned to Abraham and Sarah, and in time Ishmael was born. He was a boy full of life with bright eyes and a gentle spirit. Abraham loved his son, and Sarah watched quietly, her feelings a quiet mystery. As Ishmael grew, the family's story continued with many soft changes. Ishmael's presence in the household brought a mixture of feelings and challenges. The story of Hagar and Ishmael is full of subtle shifts, like the gentle change of light during a sunset. When Ishmael was still a boy, the story tells us that Sarah saw something and felt worried. She spoke to Abraham softly, and they made a choice that changed everything again. They gently asked Hagar and Ishmael to leave the household. This was not easy, for families are like trees with many branches, sometimes bending in unexpected ways. Hagar and Ishmael left with quiet steps. They walked into the wilderness once more, carrying only what they needed. The sun was warm overhead, and the land stretched far and wide around them. It was a hard journey, and soon they felt hungry and thirsty. Ishmael was still a boy, and he needed care and comfort. When their water was gone, Hagar sat under a bush, her heart heavy with worry. She could only watch as her son lay near her, growing weak. Then, softly, a voice came again, an angel or presence gentle and caring, though we don't know exactly how. This presence said, "Do not be afraid, for God has heard your cries." Nearby a small well of water appeared, cool and life-giving. Hagar and Ishmael drank, and felt new strength grow, like the soft rays of dawn. This moment was quiet, but full of hope. They knew their journey was not over, but they were not alone. With water and courage, Hagar and Ishmael moved forward into the wilderness. There Ishmael grew. He became a skillful and strong young man. The story says he lived in a place called the Desert of Paran, and became an archer. His life was full of quiet adventure beneath the vast sky. Even though Hagar and Ishmael were far from Abraham and Sarah, their story was still part of the larger family's journey. The gentle lessons of care, hope, and listening echo softly through the ages. And so the story of Hagar and Ishmael teaches us about a mother's love and a child's courage. It reminds us that even in hard times, when the world feels vast and lonely, quiet voices of comfort can reach us. Their story is a gentle whisper from the past, telling us that no one is truly alone. Now let us rest with this peaceful thought as the night grows calm and soft like a quiet sea. under the stars. I will pause here for now. If you would like to hear more, please let me know. As the years continued to pass in the arid expanse of the desert of Paran, Ishmael matured into a young man with strength and kindness woven into his character. His days were spent roaming wide stretches of rugged land, practicing his aim with bow and arrow, and learning the tales that the wind carried across the dunes. Though he lived far from the lively gatherings of his father's household, he carried within him echoes of family, a quiet connection that neither distance nor silence could sever. Hagar watched her son with a mixture of pride and tenderness. The harshness of the desert had carved resilience into his spirit, yet there remained in him a softness, the spark of a heart open to the world's wonders and pains alike. She often sat beside him during the cool, whispering evenings, sharing stories of their past, of Abraham and Sarah, of the promises spoken by angels, of the unseen hands that had steadied them in moments of despair. One such evening, as the sky deepened into indigo, and the first stars began their delicate dance, Ishmael asked his mother about the strangers he had sometimes seen on the distant horizon, travelers moving beneath the vast sky. He wondered where they came from, what tales they carried, and if any of them sought a place of shelter near their distant home. Hagar smiled gently, her gaze drifting toward the darkening edges of the desert. "The world is wide, my son," she whispered. "People travel for many reasons: hope, fear, seeking or fleeing. We too are part of this endless journey, connected by threads unseen, but felt in the heart." Their lives, though shaped by solitude, were not without moments of grace. Messengers from Abraham sometimes came, bringing news of family events or simple tokens: a basket of fruit, a warm cloak for the colder nights, reminders that love, though stretched thin by circumstance, had not vanished. One day, a traveler arrived, journeying from the direction of Abraham's settlement. He carried a message from Sarah herself, her voice hesitant but sincere. She spoke of years past, of the weight of regret, and of hopes for reconciliation, not just for her sake, but for Ishmael's, who was as much a part of their story as anyone else. Hagar listened quietly, the words stirring a complex mix of emotions. The past had held wounds, but time had also brought healing. With grace, she accepted the invitation to meet, knowing that some bridges, though long left unused, could still be crossed with gentle footsteps. The meeting was simple, held beneath the shade of an ancient oak, where the desert's edge met the greenery of cultivated land. Sarah, more aged and softened by time, and Hagar, carrying the endurance of years, spoke with sincerity. The veil of bitterness lifted, replaced by a fragile hope. For in that moment they found understanding, the shared care for a son who in many ways belonged to them both. Ishmael, standing between the two worlds they represented, felt the stirring of belonging, like the first morning light touching distant hills. He was neither fully one nor the other, but a bridge bridging the stories of each, a living testament to complexity transformed into harmony. The seasons turned, and with them new chapters unfolded. Ishmael grew into his place in the larger tapestry of his family's history. His skills and kindness earned him respect, his name carrying the whispered blessings of the wilderness and the promise of future generations. Hagar, watching her son step into the broader world, felt a quiet pride. Her journey as a mother, a survivor, a bearer of hope, had lasted beyond hardships, beyond stinging desert winds and moments of sorrow. It was a journey marked by love's quiet endurance and the steadfast light of faith. And so, beneath endless skies and amidst shifting sands, the story of Hagar and Ishmael continued, not as a tale confined to a moment, but as an ongoing song, a reminder that even in the loneliest places, unseen hands guide us, voices of courage call us forward, and love, in its many forms, remains our enduring refuge. In the quiet hush of dawn, Ishmael's steps were light against the warm sands. His breath was steady, each exhale mingling with the soft whisper of the desert breeze. Around him, the world stretched vast and unbroken, a tapestry of ochres, golds, and deep blues kissed by morning light. This land had known his laughter and his tears, his struggles and triumphs. It was here, beneath the endless sky, that he found both challenge and peace. His bow, an extension of his arm, rested easy against his shoulder. Years of practice had tuned his muscles and sharpened his sight, turning simple sticks and strings into tools of survival and protection. Yet Ishmael's strength was more than physical. It was the resilience etched deep within his spirit. an echo of the journey his mother had set before him years ago. Hagar had watched him grow with a quiet joy that spoke of battles fought and won, not just in the world beyond, but within her own heart. She remembered the first days when fear clung to their sparsely sheltered life, when doubt settled like dust in the corners of the tent. But those days had faded, carried away like desert sands in the wind. Now, in Ishmael, she saw a bridge between their past and the countless possibilities the future held. Each evening as the sun dipped low, painting the horizon with streaks of amber and violet, mother and son gathered beneath the stars. Their voices intertwined with the soft night air, recounting stories older than the dunes. Tales of Abraham's faith, Sarah's strength, and the promises whispered to desert winds. These stories were more than history. They were the roots that anchored their souls even as they reached towards the unknown. Ishmael's curiosity had grown with every tale. The wider world called to him, not as a place of fear or exile, but as a canvas for dreams yet unpainted. He wondered about the travelers he had glimpsed on distant trails, the merchants laden with silks and spices, the wanderers whose laughter carried the music of other lands. His heart stirred with longing, but also with the wisdom Hagar imparted, that to journey was to be part of a greater human story, woven from countless lives and paths crossing like threads in a vast tapestry. Messages from Abraham came periodically, folded in worn leather and sealed with symbols of love and hope. They were reminders of a family divided by distance, yet united by blood and remembrance. Each message was met with grateful hearts, a quiet promise that no matter how far the road stretched, love could traverse any expanse. Then came the day a new messenger arrived, one whose eyes bore the weight of regret and the promise of healing. Sarah's voice, carried across the still desert air, breathed apologies and a hope for reconciliation. Nothing could erase the pain of years past, but Hagar saw in Sarah's words a tender opening, a path to peace. Their meeting was a delicate dance of forgiveness and understanding, the air between them filled with cautious warmth, and in those moments bitterness softened into fragile hope. Stories were shared anew, not as weapons, but as threads weaving a common cloth. Bound by care for Ishmael, whose place was no longer at the edges but at the heart of these intertwined lives. For Ishmael himself, the transformation was profound. No longer the youth of exile or shadow, he found himself a living testament to survival and blessing. His spirit carried the wilderness within it, the untamed strength of desert storms, and the quiet persistence of seeds beneath the sands. Yet, he also bore the legacy of his lineage, a covenant made beyond sight, a promise echoing through generations. Now recognized and respected by those who once regarded him only as an outsider, Ishmael stood as a symbol of unity. His presence was a quiet reminder that human stories rarely unfold in clear lines, but in circles, weaving unexpected connections. His life was a blessing not only for himself, but for all who knew him, a story whispered softly on the desert wind, one of enduring faith, love, and the unyielding hope that ties family together. As the seasons changed, so too did the world around them. The desert bloomed and withered, endless cycles of life marking time. Ishmael continued to roam the sands, his eyes reflecting distant horizons and inner depths. Hagar remained steadfast, her spirit a beacon of enduring love that no hardship could dim. In the twilight hours, beneath the velvet sky dotted with countless stars, mother and son often sat together, sharing silence as much as words. The desert night cradled them in its cool embrace, a timeless witness to their journey, one shaped by struggle but defined by grace. And as sleep came gently, the world held its breath, knowing that in the heart of the wilderness, a story of hope, faith, and belonging was being written, not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments, whispered prayers, and the steady rhythm of footsteps upon the sand. Time slicked softly across the sands, folding days into nights like the gentle closing of a well-read book. In this shifting calm, Ishmael found himself growing more attuned to the desert's language, the whisper of the wind, the subtle pattern of stars, the quiet footsteps of creatures unseen. Each moment held a silent lesson, a reminder that beneath vast skies, even the smallest life threads into the great weave of existence. Hagar often watched him with a mother's quiet pride, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and wonder. The boy, once shadowed by fear and uncertainty, now moved with a steady assurance. His laughter mingled freely with the breezes, and his questions, still many, were met with patient answers born from her heart and memory. Messages from Abraham had dwindled as time passed, their echoes lingering like distant songs. Though physical distance stretched between them, a thread of love remained unbroken. Hagar treasured these connections, often holding the worn letters close, tracing the faded ink, as if to bring Abraham nearer in the cool desert evenings. Sarah's occasional visits became moments of quiet reconciliation. Their conversations, once stiff and cautious, grew warmer. The two women shared stories and memories over simple meals, weaving respect and forgiveness as tightly as the fabric of their shared lives. Hagar was learning that even wounds thought deep could soften, and new bonds could be forged from ashes. Ishmael listened to these exchanges, sensing the deep currents beneath the words. He understood more fully that identity was not fixed by origins alone, but could be shaped by kindness, courage, and the willingness to embrace others. He no longer saw himself as a part, but as part of a vast, unfolding story, one that connected past and future, desert and city, exile and home. One evening, under a canopy of endless stars, Ishmael sat beside his mother, their shoulders touching in companionable silence. The air was cool, carrying the subtle fragrance of desert blooms. Hagar spoke softly, her voice a steady rhythm against the hush of night. "The desert teaches us many things, Ishmael," she said. "It teaches patience, strength, and the delicate art of hope. You are a child of this place, but also a child of all places. Your journey is the journey of many." He nodded, absorbing her words like the thirsty earth drinking rain. The promise of the unknown stretched before him, not as a threat, but as an invitation. In the days that followed, Ishmael ventured further along ancient paths, guided by the stories of travelers who passed through. He learned to read the signs left by animals, to gather herbs with healing properties, to observe without disturbing the fragile balance around him. Each step enriched his connection to the land and to himself. At one such crossing, Ishmael encountered a caravan resting for the night. The trader spoke languages strange to him, yet through gestures and shared smiles, a simple exchange blossomed. They offered him dates and water, and in return he shared tales of his mother's endurance and his own dreams. This brief communion left a lasting impression. In the faces of strangers, Ishmael saw reflections of his own hopes and trials. Deserts might divide, but stories created bridges. Each voice, each life, was a thread in the vast tapestry of humanity. Back at their humble dwelling, Hagar listened intently to her son's adventures. Her joy was quiet but deep, a wellspring of pride that nourished them both. She knew his path was just beginning, and that the desert's lessons were far from over. Seasons shifted imperceptibly. The heat softened, giving way to cool nights that wrapped the dunes in silken shadows. Wildflowers appeared in hidden hollows, painting the sand with fleeting color. Life persisted in delicate balance, reminding them all that endurance carried beauty. During a rare gathering of neighboring nomads and herders, Ishmael was invited to share his story. Standing beneath the gentle glow of lanterns, he spoke with a clarity that surprised even himself. His words wove together threads of hardship and hope, exile and belonging, fear and bravery. The listeners received him not as a wanderer, but as a messenger, a voice articulating the shared trials and dreams that defined them all. In that circle, Ishmael's identity blossomed fully, a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of forgiveness, an embodiment of community. Hagar watched from a distance, tears tracing quiet lines down her cheeks. Her heart, once heavy with sorrow, now soared with the knowledge that her son had transcended the labels placed upon him. He was a living bridge between worlds. As the years unfolded, the sands beneath their feet continued to shift, but the core of their story remained constant. Beneath the endless sky, mother and son moved together, rooted in the past, yet reaching towards the future. Their lives spoke softly of faith that sustains, of grace that heals, and of belonging found not in place alone, but in the bonds we nurture. One tranquil night, as a gentle breeze carried the scent of distant rain, Ishmael stood watching the horizon. The first light of dawn brushed the edge of the world in pale gold. He felt the weight of countless footsteps, his ancestors, his family, his own small ones yet to come. In that quiet moment, he understood deeply. The desert was not just a place of survival. It was a cradle of transformation, a canvas upon which stories of love, loss, and hope could be painted anew. Hagar joined him, her hand finding his in familiar warmth. Together, they watched the sun rise, welcoming the promise of another day, another chapter in the enduring story of Hagar and Ishmael. The desert dawn stretched pale fingers across the horizon, softening the rugged edges of the endless dunes. Hagar and Ishmael sat quietly, sharing the stillness as cool breezes carried the scent of dry earth and far-off blooms. In these moments, the desert seemed less a harsh expanse and more a whispering companion, patient, enduring, full of secrets waiting to be heard. Ishmael's eyes traced the slow arc of a solitary bird winding its path amidst the pastel sky. "Mother," he said softly, "sometimes I feel the desert breathes alongside us. Like the sand, we shift and change, but underneath we are steady." His voice was a blend of awe and certainty, as though a newfound truth had nestled deep inside him. Hagar smiled, her gaze reflecting the wisdom of countless cycles of sun and shadow. The desert teaches us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is the quiet willingness to continue, to listen and to learn. The exchange between them was quiet, a rhythm in tune with the world around them. Ishmael had grown into his role, not simply as a survivor of the past, but as a gentle bridge between the old and the new, between memories that could wound and futures yet unwritten. Over time, the desert brought more than survival lessons. It offered moments of reflection and clarity. As the days lengthened toward the heat of noon, Ishmael often found himself beneath the sparse shade of a solitary acacia tree. There he traced patterns in the sand, lines that changed with his fingers' movement, reminding him of the stories he now carried. These stories, harvested from encounters with travelers, shared whispered legends, and his own growing understanding, wove together like the threads of a tapestry, a connection between souls stretched across time and distance. One evening, as the sun sank behind distant mesas, casting the sky in brilliant lilacs and warm gold, Ishmael stood among the gathering of nomads and herders once more. His voice carried not the uncertainty of youth, but the calm conviction of one who had walked paths layered with challenge and hope. "We gather beneath vast skies that have seen generations come and go," he said. "In this vastness, we are small but never alone. Our stories are the wind's song, the earth's memory, shared and carried forward so that we all might endure." The crowd listened, rapt and hushed, feeling the weight and lightness of his words. There was no grand rhetoric here, only an honest truth binding them together, an echo of ancient wisdom renewed. That night, beneath a canopy of stars so brilliant they seemed to pulse with life, Ishmael and Hagar sat side by side. The silence between them was not empty, but full of understanding, of peace. "You have become a light for many, Ishmael," Hagar said, her voice thick with emotion. "You turned your journey into a path others can follow." Ishmael glanced at his mother, tracing the lines of her face, a map of endurance marked by love and sacrifice. "It is because you showed me how," he replied. "You taught me that even in the toughest places, faith and forgiveness can thrive." The desert night deepened, and the air grew cool against their skin. Somewhere nearby, a distant call of an owl mingled with the whisper of shifting sands. These sounds, simple and timeless, reminded Ishmael that he was part of something vast and ongoing, a story that stretched beyond his own life and into the lives yet to come. In the days to follow, the rhythm of their lives continued to echo this quiet balance. Ishmael's steps fell lighter on the earth, his presence a steadying force among the people of the desert. Hagar watched him with quiet pride, her heart full with the knowledge that their endurance had blossomed into something beautiful, a living testament to the desert's lessons of patience, strength, and hope. As spring's gentle touch coaxed new life from the arid soil, flowers bloomed bright and brief, a reminder of both fragility and resilience. Beneath the wide blue sky, Ishmael knelt to gather the petals, letting their vibrant colors brush his palms. He whispered to the gathering breeze, "Like these blossoms, we are here to remind the desert that life is possible, even when it seems impossible." The sun warmed his face, and with it a sense of calm certainty settled within him. The desert had not only been a place of survival, but a place of transformation, where the past shadows could be softened by the light of understanding. Hagar joined him, quiet as the turning of the seasons. Together they watched the horizon stretch wide and endless, the journey still unfolding before them. In this unhurried moment, the story of Hagar and Ishmael continued, not as one of hardship alone, but as a timeless song of healing, of faith renewed, and of belonging found within the vast embrace of the desert's heart. As the seasons shifted once more, the desert revealed its subtle transformations, small blooms peeking through cracked earth, the soft hum of insects in the cooling evenings, and the steady drip of life-giving water seeping beneath the sand. Ishmael walked this ancient land with reverence, knowing that every grain of sand, every whispered wind, carried stories untold, waiting patiently to be heard. Hagar's voice remained a quiet melody in his memory. She had taught him that survival was not simply endurance, but the weaving of compassion with resilience. The desert tests the body, she had said, but it is the heart that learns to bloom despite the dryness. This truth had become the foundation of Ishmael's teachings, a gentle reminder to his people that hardship and hope need not be enemies, but companions on the same journey. The nomads who came to Ishmael sought more than water or shelter. They sought a balm for their weary spirits, a place where loneliness could be softened by shared stories. Under the vast expanse of stars, Ishmael would listen first, gathering their tales as if they were precious threads in a great tapestry. And then, when the time was right, he spoke, not with grand declarations, but in simple, sincere words that carried the weight of the desert's endless patience. "You are not alone," he told them in the quiet hours before dawn. "This desert is a living remembrance of those who walked before us and those who will come after. Our footsteps are not solitary, but part of a dance that stretches across time." These words moved beyond the campfires, reaching deep into the hearts of the travelers. For many, Ishmael's presence was a steady flame amidst the unknown, a symbol of enduring light. The desert, harsh as it might be, was no longer a symbol of exile or abandonment, but a sanctuary, a place where souls could be refined and renewed. Hagar watched from the edge of their small encampment, her eyes soft with pride and quiet joy. To see Ishmael stand as a beacon to others was the fulfillment of her faith, and yet she knew there was always more to learn, more to become. "The desert teaches ever more," she whispered as the nights grew longer, "and we are always students in its vast classroom." One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the dunes, a visitor arrived, a wise man from a distant oasis, carrying stories of his own. He spoke of cities where stone and water mingled, where people forgot the desert's lessons, but longed to remember. Ishmael listened calmly, absorbing the old man's words, and then shared his own reflections. "The desert is not only where we are tested," Ishmael said gently, "but where we find ourselves again. It strips away the noise and leaves what is essential. So when we return to the cities, or to the places that seem far from this vast openness, we carry the desert within us, steadfast, patient, and ready to heal." The wise man nodded, his eyes shining with respect. "Your voice carries the strength of the ages, Ishmael," he said. "Like your mother before you, you hold the flame for all who seek it." That night, Hagar smiled as she watched the two men speak beneath the stars. She saw a bridge being built, a pathway connecting the stories of the past to the hopes of the future. It was a reminder that the desert's embrace was wide enough to hold many journeys, many dreams. As weeks passed, Ishmael noticed how the children of the nomads began to follow him, curious and unafraid of the vastness around them. With patient hands, he taught them the songs of the wind, the names of the distant stars, and the rhythm of the earth beneath their feet. He showed them how to find the hidden places where life thrived, even when it seemed invisible to hurried eyes. In these moments, the legacy of Hagar's teachings blossomed fully. It was faith in the unseen, strength found through kindness, and the wisdom to forgive both others and oneself. Ishmael felt the pulse of generations flowing through him, the courage of his mother, the stories of his ancestors, and the new hopes carried by these young voices. One morning, as the desert air shimmered with promise, Ishmael stood at the edge of a small spring that had begun to pulse stronger with the spring rains. The water was clear and cool, a gift whispered back to the earth after months of waiting. He knelt by the pool and cupped his hands gently, letting the liquid flow over his fingers. "This," he said softly to no one but the wind, is the proof that no place is beyond redemption, that even the driest soil can nurture life again. The ripple of water shimmered like a mirror, reflecting the endless sky and the horizon where the sun was rising anew. In that moment, Ishmael felt the circle of his story widen to every droplet of rain, every whispered blessing, every step taken by those who believe in healing and belonging. At dusk, when the desert cooled and the stars began their eternal dance, Ishmael returned to the fire that Hagar had carefully tended. She sat beside him, her eyes carrying the knowledge of countless nights spent beneath this same starlit sky. "Your journey is far from over," Hagar said in her gentle voice, "but you have become more than the boy who once sought nothing but survival. You are the keeper of stories, the healer of spirits, and a light for those wandering through darkness." Ishmael smiled, feeling the calm certainty that comes not from knowing all answers, but from embracing the journey itself. "And you, mother, are the root that anchored me here, faithful, patient, and strong." Together they watched as the flames danced, casting fleeting shadows that whispered of times long ago and those yet to come. The desert held them close, an eternal witness to stories of endurance, forgiveness, and love. In its vastness, Hagar and Ishmael found not isolation, but a profound belonging, a shared path illuminated by grace. And so the story of Hagar and Ishmael continued, written not just in words, but in the living breath of the desert and the hearts it touched. A melody of faith renewed each day, a song of healing whispered on the wind, a legacy carried forward by every soul who dares to believe in life, even in the most unlikely places. The wind carried a cool whisper across the desert, folding over the warm sand like a lover's breath, its gentle murmur comforting, a reminder of how life could find a way even in the harshest places. He traced patterns in the water with his fingers, watching ripples fade into stillness. The sun was dipping low, casting a soft glow that softened every edge and spread golden light over the distant dunes. With the evening deepening, the nomad children gathered around him again, their eager eyes bright beneath the slow unveiling of stars. Ishmael's voice was calm, steady as the rhythm of the desert night. He spoke not only of survival, but of the deep melodies hidden in the shifting sands. "Every grain of sand holds a story," he said softly. "Stories written by wind and sun, carved by patience and time. We listen to the desert. It teaches us to endure and to hope." The children leaned in, silent but alive with the thrill of secret knowledge. Ishmael sang the old songs of the starry sky, the lullabies his mother once sang, each note a thread weaving them closer to the vastness above and the earth below. The stars were not just distant lights, but guides, companions on this ceaseless journey. Hagar watched from a distance, her eyes reflecting both pride and a quiet sorrow. She remembered the days when Ishmael was a boy, searching for his place between the whispering dunes and the promise of the endless sky. Now he was the one holding the lantern for others, the keeper of stories, the one who breathed life into the desert's silent heart. Her footsteps were soft as she approached, settling beside Ishmael without a word. Together they sat in the gathering night, sharing the profound silence that comes after passing a sacred trust from one generation to the next. "You have become a river in the sand," Hagar said finally, her voice a soothing caress, "a source of life where others see only dryness. Remember this, Ishmael, you are never alone, for the desert shelters all who walk with courage and love." Ishmael nodded, the weight of her words wrapping around him like a protective cloak. He thought of the spring, now flourishing, a symbol that even in hardship, renewal is possible. It was this spring that had become a meeting place, a refuge where weary travelers and wandering souls could rest, refresh, and dream anew. Days passed, and the stories continued to spread, carried on the winds to distant tents and hidden valleys. Travelers spoke of Ishmael's teachings, of the songs and lessons that honored both the struggle and the blessings of the desert life. Some came seeking wisdom, others arrived with heavy hearts, longing for a glimpse of the hope that grew as surely as the tiny spring. One evening a visitor came, a woman wrapped in a shawl patterned like the night sky. She approached the spring quietly, her steps respectful and unhurried. Ishmael greeted her with the warmth of one who knows how precious such moments are. "I have heard of this spring," she said, her voice soft but filled with longing. "They say it is the heart of the desert made visible. I come from far beyond the dunes, carrying the grief of my people. Can this place offer healing?" Ishmael smiled gently. "The desert is a healer. It teaches not by taking away, but by helping us find what is already inside. Faith, kindness, forgiveness, they are the waters we drink here. Let these truths fill your soul." She settled by the water's edge, letting the coolness reach her skin. The night embraced her, and in the quiet, a transformation began. Not instant, but steady, like a dawn slowly unfurling. Hagar watched from nearby, understanding that this moment was part of the ancient rhythm, the endless cycle where pain meets hope and brokenness finds its mending. As the woman rested, the nomad children gathered close again, sensing the sacredness in the air. Ishmael continued his songs, each note weaving threads of light into the dark tapestry around them, binding past, present, and future. Days turned to weeks. The spring grew stronger still, the circle of those it touched expanding. Stories took root, of forgiveness that freed hearts, of endurance that became grace, of love that outlasted hardship. Together, Hagar and Ishmael nurtured this legacy, a living testament to the power of faith carried across time and desert sands. One dusk, as the horizon blazed with the last fire of the sun, Ishmael sat beside Hagar once more. His voice was quieter now, touched by a deep contentment. "Our journey will never end," he said. "The desert is vast, but so is the love it holds, and as long as there are stories to tell and hearts to listen, the spring will flow." Hagar smiled, her eyes reflecting the fading light and the infinite stars above. "Yes, my son, and when the winds change, our story will be carried beyond the dunes, whispered in every tribe, every firelight, every endless sky." Together they rose, hands touching lightly, the bond between them unbroken. Beneath the vast desert heavens they walked toward the horizon, a mother and her son, keepers of hope, guardians of the eternal desert song. The desert's heart beat steadily, a gentle promise to all who dared to believe. The story of Hagar and Ishmael would live on, as enduring as the stars, and as life-giving as the spring, a timeless song of faith, healing, and love. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden haze over the endless dunes, Ishmael sat quietly beside the spring. The gentle murmur of water threading through the earth felt like a voice, invisible, yet intimately present. Around him the nomad children lay scattered, their eyes heavy with the peace that had settled over the place, a hush that spoke of something deeper than words. The desert, vast and ancient, seemed to breathe alongside them. Hagar approached slowly, her steps light, as if moving through a delicate prayer. She carried with her a bundle of woven reeds, gifts from a distant place where mountains met rivers. She knelt next to Ishmael, offering them without a word. Their hands met briefly as he accepted the gift, the touch warm and steady. "This spring," Hagar said softly, "is no longer just water and sand. It is a place where brokenness can become whole, where wounds find silence, and where the heart learns to sing again." Her eyes traced the horizons, where pale stars were waking. "It is a sanctuary woven from courage, kindness, and the breath of old promises." Ishmael looked up, meeting her gaze. He could feel the weight of those ancient promises coursing through his veins, a lineage of hope entrusted to him like a fragile flame. "We carry them together," he whispered, "in every story, every song, every step across these sands." A sudden breeze stirred the fabric of their shared solitude, lifting dust and memories alike. In that moment the desert itself seemed to lean nearer, a silent witness to the covenant between past, present, and future. From the edge of the gathering, the woman who had come long ago with grief now stood, her gaze resting on the glowing lantern Ishmael held. Her sorrow had transformed into something lighter, like a feather caught in a soft wind. She approached, her voice a gentle thread woven through the quiet night. "The desert's gift is not only healing for the body," she said, "but for the spirit. It teaches us to look within, to find the wellspring of kindness buried beneath years of pain." Ishmael nodded, offering her a smile etched with understanding. And in kindness, forgiveness blooms, a flower as rare and resilient as the desert rose. Beside the spring, the children stirred, their dreams mingling with the breath of the earth. They carried in their hearts the songs and stories Ishmael shared, tucked safely like seeds awaiting the rains. Hagar rose, her silhouette softened by the moon. "These stories," she said quietly, "are the threads that sew the tapestry of the desert's heart. They bind us, remind us of who we are and who we can become." The woman looked toward the horizon, where night deepened into velvet black and stars scattered like tears of light. "I will carry this gift with me, wherever I journey. The desert story now flows through my veins." Ishmael gently set the lantern down beside the spring, its glow a beacon in the vastness. "And so the story continues," he said, voice steady as the earth beneath them, passing from one hand to another, growing stronger with each whisper, each act of love. Hagar touched Ishmael's shoulder, a quiet blessing that needed no words. Together, they watched as the first light of dawn painted the dunes in soft blushes and gold. The spring shimmered, a promise reflected, a truth enduring beyond memory or time. As the new day began, the circle of healing widened. Travelers arriving from distant lands paused to rest and listen. Stories flowed like water, laughter and tears mingling beneath the ever-watchful sky. Each person carried a piece of the spring's spirit home, a living thread woven into the fabric of their own journeys. The desert, ever patient, held these gifts gently within its vast embrace, its heart beating steady and sure beneath the shifting sands. In that sacred space, Hagar and Ishmael remained, keepers of stories, lanterns of hope, guiding souls towards the enduring light found only in love's quiet, unyielding presence. With each passing sunset, the spring flourished still, a living testament to the power of courage, kindness, and forgiveness. And as the desert whispered its ancient songs, the stories carried forth, riding the winds beyond the dunes, forever weaving the tapestry of life, healing, and enduring love. The sun began its slow descent behind the dunes, casting long shadows that stretched like whispered memories across the sand. Around the spring, a gentle hush settled, a quiet invitation to listen, to feel the pulse of time cradled in the desert's vast embrace. The travelers, Hagar, Ishmael, and the woman now known to carry the desert's story, formed a loose circle, their faces softened by the amber glow. Hagar's fingers delicately traced patterns in the sand as she spoke. Her voice was a soft murmur, like wind sifting through ancient stone. "This place," she said, "is more than water and shade. It is the heart of endurance, where the past and future converse through the stillness between each heartbeat." Ishmael's gaze drifted toward the horizon, then returned to the spring. "Every step we take here," he said, "is marked by the footprints of those who came before. Their hope lingers, not as a burden, but as a beacon. That is the weight and gift we carry." The woman, whose eyes glistened with quiet determination, added, "In our sorrow we found a path. In our shared stories, a home. This spring is the boundary between loss and renewal, between solitude and togetherness." The children gathered, still wide-eyed and attentive, asked softly, "Will the desert keep us safe, even when we are far from here?" Hagar knelt beside them, her smile a gentle promise. "The desert listens with patience. It remembers each name, each tear, and every laugh. No matter where you walk, that remembrance will travel with you, as steadfast as the stars." The golden light of the lantern faintly flickered, as though winking in agreement. Its flame, once a radiant beacon, now mirrored the quiet strength that had blossomed among them, a shared warmth resisting the twilight chill. Ishmael reached out, gathering smooth stones from the riverbed, arranging them carefully by the water's edge. "Let these stones be a testament," he said thoughtfully, "like small monuments, silent but persistent. Each one a story, each one a mark of courage." Hagar's hand found his, steady and sure. "And may they remind us," she whispered, "that even the smallest acts of kindness ripple outward, touching lives we may never know." A soft breeze stirred the surface of the spring, sending sparkling ripples that caught the last light of day. The woman's voice broke the silence. "I will carry this story not as a burden, but as a song, one that sings of healing and hope, of hands joined across time." Around the spring, the desert seemed to breathe with them, alive not with noise, but with a profound, unspoken understanding. The horizon pulsed softly with colors of dusk, faint purples and warm indigos folding into the darkening sky. The children settled close, resting their heads against the soft earth, their eyelids growing heavy, Their dreams, braided with stories and stars, would carry seeds of hope far beyond this place. Ishmael rose slowly, casting one last glance at the glowing lantern before lifting it high. Its light, now gentle, illuminated the faces of all gathered, as if passing on a quiet blessing. "The desert's watch is long," he said softly, "and within its vastness, all wounds find space to breathe. We are but guardians for a moment, keepers of an ancient trust." Hagar stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the deepening night. "And in that trust," she added, "we find the courage to face the unknown with open hearts." The woman stepped forward, placing a delicate hand upon the lantern. "May this light never wane," she vowed, "but kindle courage in the hearts of all who feel lost in darkness." Together, they turned toward the rising stars, quiet sentinels, endless and watchful. The desert had woven them into its story, a tapestry threaded with forgiveness, resilience, and an enduring promise. As the cool night wrapped around them like a shawl, a profound calm settled, gentle as the desert breeze. Here, in this sacred place between past and future, the spring's waters whispered their age-old lullaby, a balm for weary souls, a quiet hymn of hope. And so, beneath the vast expanse of sky, the story of Hagar and Ishmael continued, not just in words, but in every kind act, every shared silence, every tender moment of healing carried forward like a sacred lantern, passed hand to hand across generations in deserts untold. As the night deepened its quiet veil, the desert around them seemed to breathe with the pulse of countless unseen lives. Sand shifted subtly under the starlight, a silent chorus stirred by the gentle wind that carried the soft scent of distant blooms. Hagar's eyes traced the heavens, the familiar bright points connecting in invisible lines, stories etched across the firmament. Each star held a whisper of those who walked before, ancestors whose footsteps mingled with hers and Ishmael's beneath this vast sky. Her voice, low and steady, broke the hush. "We walk paths laid by those who came long ago. Their steps are not lost, but live beneath the earth and within the air we share." Ishmael nodded, eyes reflecting the flicker of the small flame that softened their circle. "There is a rhythm to endurance," he said thoughtfully, "like the steady beating of a heart beneath the quiet rocks. Through droughts, through storms, it keeps steady, unseen but vibrant." His words settled, gentle and sure, into the stillness. The woman who had spoken of boundaries reached out to touch the cold stones of the monument Ishmael had built. "These stones," she murmured, "are more than markers. They are promises, each one carrying a part of us forward, our courage rooted here, even as the desert shifts." A slight breeze stirred the edges of her robe, a soft ripple like the page of an ancient book turning. Children gathered close, their eyes wide and bright in the lantern's glow. One small voice asked, "Will the stories we carry ever fade, lost like footprints in the sand?" Hagar smiled, warmth filling her calm gaze. "No, the desert carries stories like water carries lilies, deep and unseen. Even when footprints vanish from the surface, the stories remain beneath, carried by time, by wind, by water, waiting for new footsteps to find them." Ishmael reached into the soft sand, lifting a handful to let it trickle through his fingers. Like grains of sand, each story is unique, tiny on its own, but together they shape the vastness around us. Our kindness, our courage, all these moments blend into a landscape that no wind can erase. A hush settled over the group as the lantern's light softened, shifting from bright beacon to a gentle flame, flickering in quiet cadence. The soft glow seemed to pulse gently, its warmth a tangible thread connecting each heart around the spring. "Let this light remind us," Hagar whispered, "that even when the night is long and shadows fall, there is a steady flame within us. It carries hope." The woman nodded solemnly, "And when we feel lost, that light is a hand reaching through the darkness, guiding us home." The group shifted slightly, drawing closer together, a solace found in shared presence, each face illuminated by the tender glow, each soul touched by the quiet understanding that they were not alone. The desert was vast, but they were a cluster of warmth and endurance, holding space for one another. Breath mingled with breath, stories mingled with stories, and beneath the endless sky, generations whispered into the night. The ancient trust of the desert was held gently within this circle of quiet guardians, temporary keepers of something eternal. Hagar's heart filled with the steady calm of knowing. This was not an ending, but a continuation, a soft tide of renewal that would flow from their hands to those who came after, carrying healing across time, through shifting sands and endless stars. With a final look at the now flickering lantern, Ishmael spoke softly. Our journey will never be finished, for it is part of a larger story, a river of lives flowing in trust, from desert springs to far horizons. The woman's voice was a calm promise. And as long as we remember, as long as we hold this circle, the light will never fade. It will live in the kindness we give and the courage we share. Around the spring, silence settled deeper, not empty, but full of life, full of the quiet strength that moves beneath all things. The night carried their collective breath, carrying it softly into the dawn yet to come, one gentle moment weaving into the next, across the ever-bound desert.